When I found out I was diabetic, I can remember my mum in particular, she was really worried, and my dad. My mother had nursed her mother through diabetes and had been at home with her. She desperately wanted me to be able to manage it.
When I was really young, I didn't realise what was what. I didn't realise that diabetes was such a bad thing. When I was young, I didn't realise there were two different types of diabetes, and I didn't realise the difference between them. I knew it was genetic through mum's side of the family, but I didn't realise that the environmental factors were having such a bad impact on it.
I was severely overweight, and to do anything socially, physically, I had to think about it a lot. Any ordinary illness I had became more complex because I didn't heal as well. I knew what diabetes could do. I'd lived it, I'd seen it in my family, but I just didn't have the personal strength. I didn't have the community or the dedication and strength within myself to control my emotional dependency on food. As the years went by, because I wasn't exercising the right way or sustaining it, the complications of the diabetes became worse. So I ended up going from just diet controlled to tablets, and then eventually onto insulin. At my worst, when I was seriously diabetic, I'd be injecting hundreds of units of long-term insulin and probably about 100 units of short-term insulin as well over the course of a day. As you became more dependent on the insulin, that makes you hungry, so you eat more. Insulin makes you lay down fat. So it's very much a vicious circle, and you just can't get out of that then. The people that I've had experience of, the actual health professionals, have been incredibly supportive and encouraging. When I was being fully committed to their programs and all their different types of advice, then I'd lose 2 to 3 stone. What I was doing was still not enough. It wasn't making a lifestyle choice. I was on a diet. Only when I deviated from that established advice that I got beyond losing 3 to 4 stone that I really saw the big turnaround. I could see that perhaps the dietary advice I'd been given, although well-intentioned, perhaps wasn't the best to suit me. And because I was getting better results, it became more of a lifestyle choice then. When you're as big as I was, you do tend to put on a facade, and perhaps to everybody else I was big and bubbly, but on the inside it was horrible. I felt very lonely, really lacked an awful lot of confidence in any new setting, any new environment, because I felt people were judging me, people were making opinions about me because of my size. And it was one of those sort of wake-up moments really when you think, I don't really want to feel like this again.
It wasn't a hard sell to convince her to do CrossFit at all. Lucy and I had both been doing CrossFit for a while.
She was on her phone and she said, oh, I'm sorry I'm late. I just had to take a message from my personal trainer. I've just been trying to sort out my training. And as a throwaway remark, I said, oh, he doesn't want a personal challenge, does he?
And I stopped and I was like, I'm sure he would. Are you serious? And she said, yeah. So I said, well, let me speak to him and see when he can meet you.
Well, that throwaway remark ended up with me agreeing, and I'm still not quite sure how, but agreeing to go and meet this personal trainer. My friends said to me, right, you come in now? And I said, well, I don't know if CrossFit's for me. I've looked it up. I've looked on the internet. I don't know if I'm ready yet. And then she said, well, what are you waiting for? And that was it. I can remember turning up for training and the shutters on the box were open and I could hear all the barbells bouncing and hammering on the floor. and all this shouting and screaming and encouraging and really loud banging music. This isn't you, you don't do this. You don't throw barbells around, you don't listen to the loud music, you sing in the church choir and you cook cakes, you do cross stitch, you don't do this.
When she first came in, I think she was extremely nervous, like any new person, regardless of what you're there for. You know, she came in and saw these people doing handstand walks and muscle-ups and snatching without any shirts on and all this kind of stuff, and it scared her. But before she got a chance to let that feeling come in, she got a big hug and a big smile and realised that nobody cares. Nobody's got a big ego in this place. They want you to come in and be a part of it.
I instantly felt comfortable here, and then meeting everybody else, I felt safe and I didn't feel judged or anything. And that for me was a big thing, and I know it was a big thing for Mum as well.
Nobody looked at me and thought, God, look at the size on her, what on earth is she going to do? It was not like any other gym experience. I was terrified, absolutely terrified to my core. And from the minute I sat down, I just felt at ease. I'd never been so exposed and so vulnerable. But on the other hand, because of CrossFit and what CrossFit is, so supported and so included as well. My neck started playing up big time, and then when I was diagnosed with my discitis and my osteomyelitis, the first thing I said to the consultant was, but I've got to train. And he said, well, if you're not careful with what you do, you will be paralysed. It was just the worst. And my new life that I'd really worked hard for, that I'd really invested in, it just felt really threatened. And because of, I think, the strength, that mental strength that CrossFit gives you, I was able to deal with that a lot better. And then I was put into a 4-bed with 3 other ladies who were much more incapacitated than I was. So I became the legs of the outfit really, and everything that went on the floor, it was, okay, I got it. I can squat, I can pick it up. Because I've got to do something, I can't just sit here. I used to disappear off the ward, and instead of doing step-ups, I'd be walking up and down 6 flights of stairs. If this would have happened 2 to 3 years ago, I certainly wouldn't have recovered as quickly. I certainly wouldn't have recovered as fully. And I think the outcome could have been far more tragic, really.
If Ellen didn't do CrossFit, the position that she'd been in before, I think the outcome of that injury would have been totally different. Mentally, she wouldn't have been able to cope with that. It's given her this whole different mental attitude to her life, as well as what she's been able to do with her body.
She's been absolutely phenomenal. She's the consistency. She's the person who's always been prepping her own food, has always been getting herself to training.
What I haven't been able to manage until recently is the link that food plays in your emotional health and the link it directly has on your physical health as well. Through CrossFit, I've been able to join that cycle up together, and I can see now that I was using food very much as an emotional crutch before, whereas now if I'm fed up, I'll go and throw a barbell around. I won't go and head for the fridge as much. There's a big misunderstanding, I feel, among a lot of type 2 diabetics. They really don't understand the role that not just pure raw sugar plays, but carbohydrates in all its forms. They just don't see it as sugar.
The fact that you can eat in a completely different way to what the medical community advises you as a patient and lose more weight just because of what you've put in your mouth or what exercise you've done is kind of proof in the pudding, really. What else do you need to know?
What you eat significantly affects what you can do in the gym in terms of strength, energy, stamina. And what you do in the gym doesn't just stay there, it's functional. It becomes part of your life. If 2 to 3 years ago you would have told me I would willingly be going to a gym lifting weights, throwing myself on the floor, running out on the road in public. I said, you're mad, absolutely mad. Not only do I do it, I love it.
You'd never see anybody work any harder than Ellen in the gym. She's brilliant to go with. If you're sitting next to Ellen in a WOD, you just think, oh, I'm going to have to give it 100% because Ellen always is.
If you think you can't, you've got no coordination, you've got no balance, you've got no sequencing, you can't mirror any movements, you can't follow more than 3 instructions, then CrossFit's for you. Because I can't do any of that. Anyone can do it, and not just do it, enjoy it. Technically, I will always be diabetic, but I take nothing for it. My diabetes now is completely controlled by diet. The difference in how I feel, the difference in how I can just live life is amazing. And I know my mum would be really pleased now.